Hi, I'm Curtis Grimilowski, and this is my presentation on subsystems and the myofascial lines for functional training and assessments. I will be using my textbook for showing the pictures of the torsos for the myofascial lines out of the Anatomy Trains textbook. So we're going to start off here with the superficial back line. See if I got the right page. I do. Superficial back line connects and protects the entire posterior surface of the body. It's connected in two pieces, and it runs from the toes to the knees and the knees to the brows. It supports the body in full upright extension, and this prevents flexion of the torso, such as in the fetal position. It is composed mostly of slow twitch fibers, which are used for posture. The knees are flexed to the rear by the superficial back line. Overall movement function of the superficial back line is to create extension and hyperextension. It is also responsible for stability, balance, and the development of strength. Its composed muscles are of all the posterior is the Achilles tendons, the soleus, the hamstrings group, and the erector spinae, and so far up. What's unique about the superficial back line is that the knees, which unlike any other joints, are flexed to the rear by the muscles of the superficial back line. And we will be moving on to the front line now. Superficial front line is the next one. Here we are. The superficial front line. It connects the entire anterior surface from the top of the feet to the sides of the skull. It is also divided in two pieces which run from the toes to the pelvis and the pelvis to the head. The overall function of the superficial front line is to balance the superficial back line. They contain a higher number of fast twitch muscle fibers, which are used mostly for flexion. The superficial front line maintains postural extension of the knee, and the muscles of the superficial front line protect the sensitive parts of the front surface and the ventral cavity. Movement of the superficial front line. Movement function of the superficial front line is to create flexion of the trunk and hips, extension at the knee, and dorsiflexion of the foot. The unique thing about the superficial front line is that it is responsible for the frontal line while it is balanced out by the superficial back line, starting at the toes and working the way up through the whole body. We will now be moving on to the lateral line. The lateral line. Switch pages here. The lateral line. The postural function of the lateral line is to balance the front and the back. It also bilaterally balances the left and the right lines. The lateral line also mediates forces among the other superficial lines. The lateral line is fixed so that the trunk and the legs function in a coordinated fashion as well. The movement function of the lateral line creates a lateral bending of the torso, such as the lateral flexion, abduction at the hip, and eversion of the foot. Also used as an adjustable brake for lateral and rotational movements of the trunk. And last but not least, we're going to be moving on to the spiral line. Here we are, the spiral line. Spiral line, the postural function of the spiral line functions posturally to wrap the body in a double spiral that helps to maintain balance in all three planes. The spiral line connects the foot arches with the pelvic angle and helps determine efficient knee tracking during walking. When there are muscle imbalances, the spiral line compensates movement patterns for the body, which means it helps out in assisting any other movement patterns. If there is muscle imbalances, it will help out to properly function. The spiral line is responsible for involvement and functions of all other myofascial lines. The movement function. Overall movement function of the spiral line is to create and mediate spirals and rotations in the body, and in eccentric and isometric contraction, to steady the trunk and leg to keep it from folding into rotational collapse. And those are my 4 myofascial lines of the anatomy. Thank you very much.